Yeah, because the next time someone puts a urinal in a museum, it doesn't work in the same way as the first time, because the surprise is gone.
But it doesn't have to be the urinal, does it? It's something that someone creates in response to the
Exactly. And then the whole gesture of reproduction or recycling appears for the first time as absolutely fundamental to what artists do. Because this object is also about recycling. So one way to keep this image of the urinal fresh is, for instance, by reinserting it into loads of different contexts. Yeah. So okay, we saw it in the gallery. Next time in the gallery, it's not going to be the same thing. It's not going to have this surprise value, this sense of the door being open. It very quickly can become a commodity, and then it becomes just another product through which you construct your own identity, and the whole notion of innovation and openness disappeared. In the same way that I think this is an example I used many times with you, when in the early days of fetish clubs, they were sites of really different thinking and different ways of relating to people and being. But that can easily become commercialized once there are hen parties and once the fetish gear is sold in high street shops. So the sense of alternative that used to be attached to these environments now gone. It became mainstream. It just became a thing to do, like loads of other things. That just means that time to move on, time to find another environment, another niche where there is some form of openness. Now it could be the art school. It could be that Central St. Martin's, in this specific moment in time, is a place where openness is encouraged, or at least allowed, or tolerated, hopefully also encouraged. Yeah? But it's also possible for any institution to close down and become just a reproduction of the same thing. And then it is time to move on. And then it is time to look for another environment where some openness is possible. So if you like, that is the ethics of simulacra. So the ethics of simulacra is not arguing A is good, B is bad, let's all fight on the side of the reds or the blues. It's more about how do we situate ourselves in an environment where openness is possible? How can we make connections and alliances that encourage openness and prevent closure? How can we, in our practice, keep the door open? That becomes the ethics.
But then the art become like a fashion?
Yes. Art can become anything. Art can be fashion, art can be science, art can be new life forms.
But it's like a different fashion every period, have to make new things to express people.
Yes, I see what you mean. Isn't there a danger that sort of art that just becomes some sort of an attempt to surprise? Yes, because there is no answer. Because it's not like there is a recipe.
You're keeping the door open. At the moment, the door is only open to the elite, to the educated, to people who understand the language. The door is closed to all kids. Our degree show shouldn't be marked by an immensely well-read, educated set of tutors, because you're just judging it. You can't escape from your own education when you're judging your work. So our work then is just open to that kind of person.
I think somehow it's like actually when people, like a lot of audience think artwork is like thinking in different way, that misunderstanding in the opinion or the misunderstanding is quite, it actually is the function is happening inside, because a lot of different people come from different background. Actually, it's just like being I don't know how to say it. It's like it's just the misunderstanding. in the artwork will be the art. I feel like.
But also, I'm not sure that it is true that art is, well, of course, on some level, art is a elitist pursuit because, first of all, it requires free time. And if you don't have free time, if you need to work and then you go home and you just a few hours to sleep and you need to go back to work, it will be very hard to find time for art. Art also requires some sort of optimism. And one of the most life-affirming and hopeful things you can do is to go to the gallery. Because it means that you take the time to invest in yourself, in your own growth, in your own sort of spiritual, mental climate. Yeah, that's all true. But I think it is kind of it is a reductive argument because you're not going to have anything that everyone can partake in. The elitism of art is fascinating because it is on one hand art is extremely elitist, on one hand art is extremely populist. And it's kind of, that's the strange thing, that it is both a form of mass entertainment and an investment vehicle. And what else? What is there something else? But I think it is really, then you need to ask yourself, what are you doing here? You know, what drives you to this place? What drives you to the art school? Why students say, and you know, quite a few students say, this is life-changing, this environment. Why is that? Well, I think because there is something about this environment of the art school that just keeps insisting on making room for following your curiosity, for just doing something for the hell of it. Not because there is a goal, not because there is a target. And this is kind of,
I was going to say that for me, when you are working on your piece, you are not thinking about the educated people who is going to watch your piece when it is in the gallery. You are working with something that is happening inside of you, and you feel that desire to put this outside. That's some strange reason. And
it's interesting, isn't it? Because we all the time try to somehow nail it. But we already agreed that it is undecidable. We already agreed that the whole point is that it is a Schrodinger's cat. Yeah? And we still try to nail it down. And it doesn't work. It all the time. So we might as well just say, yes, it is Schrodinger's cat. It is both a particle and a wave. It is both mass-produced and elitist. It is both an object and a thing. It is both a representation and a ready-made. It is all of this. And then what happens when you add all of these things together? It's this and this and this and this, and the list kind of keeps going on, and there is no stopping it. And that becomes a kind of freedom. Yeah, that perhaps is what art creates. It creates a certain rhythm out of various cultural, social, audiovisual, technical materials. Yeah, and of course, what you do with it is entirely up to you. But just 1 second, it's entirely up to you. I feel that it is just a form of energy. In the same way that, for instance, Hollywood cinema, the industry of Hollywood, can make great films and terrible films. But there's nothing inherently bad or good about Hollywood. Yeah? But it can make terrible films. But it also can make masterpieces. But the same machine. Yeah? Why I want to present it like this, and not to say, capitalist cinema, you know, it only supports this, or you know, the American model. Of course, it does all these things, but sometimes it also does something else, and it's kind of strange, yeah. So I just want to put forward this possibility of the undecidable making its claim on us through thinking about artwork in this mode of simulacra. Julia, what
I wanted to add something about the political side of an artwork, and we were talking about revolutionary.
Yeah.
And I think I don't think that there's anything. You know, once it starts being revolutionary, I think it's fascist actually, because it doesn't leave any space for anything else. So I don't see. I just wanted to add this with the word revolutionary. It scares me.
But it's also quite interesting that when Deleuze is writing, is precisely at the point where you could say the great revolutions of the 20th century disappointed. And it was finally quite clear that neither the Maoist nor the Soviet revolutions delivered on their promises. And it just appeared that all these revolutionary processes carry within them the same thing they are revolting against, and they end up being the thing they were against. And that also makes you feel that the revolutionary rhetoric or the revolutionary strategy is failing. Yeah? And when people try to attend to the question why it's failing, the possible answer is it's failing because it is based on the same rational representational principles as the oppressive order you try to overturn. So while you change the figureheads, you remain loyal to the same logic. The logic didn't change, the character changed, but because it is the same logic, oppression carries on as before. Then what do? Do we completely give up? Do we just, roll over and accept it? Well, there is a possibility. Again, in here, Deleuze and Adorno say quite a similar thing. Here, art might have a privileged role to play, because in art, the possibility of change is real. And then, of course, you have the other dimension that art also becomes an investment vehicle and a commodity and a form of entertainment and the commodity like any other. And yet, there is something about it which is slightly different from everything else. And that's kind of peculiar and unresolvable and sort of fascinating. But to say that art will save the world is probably an oversimplification. Even though, can you actually say where art ends and the real begins? Where is it happening? Off the screen of your television? Is by the edge of the screen the real begins? Well, what is there, if not just another spectacle? Yeah?
That's the reason why Duchamp was only playing chess, right?
Why Duchamp?
Why Duchamp was playing chess for 20 years.
Maybe. I think because in playing chess you get to what he was saying. I saw a wonderful exhibition about chess and surrealism in Barcelona earlier this year, and it was really fascinating. I didn't realize how the role chess played both in the revolutions of the early 20th century and in the art movements. But I think for Duchamp that was the purest art form that doesn't carry within it there's nothing to see there. It's completely happen, even though you can see what is on the board. It's like it's a kind of ready-made, the chess game. And this sensation of things coming together out of chaos and forming something that allows you to make this move, that's precisely the sensation that he attributed to the art object. But he was saying you only can get that once you stop relying on the retina, once you stop relying on the eye. He said the optical art the retinal art is finished. The retinal art that shows you a picture of the world, that is done. He says in his interviews, dialogues with Marcel Duchamp, fantastic book. He says, look at the modernists. They are up to their necks in the retina because they still believe in the visuality of their abstract modernist painting. Now, it's, of course, the ready-mades are visual. Of course, you can see them. But what I think we might get out of it is that it's not so much about the seeing. Or in other words, what you see is not the whole story. You see a chair and a bicycle wheel, but that is not the artwork. It's taking place somewhere else, in some kind of virtual space, where suddenly these two things are not separate, but in whatever ways become one, and not yet, and also not. But when the clear distinctions between chairs and bicycles is also somehow overcome, and we have something different.
Also the gallery spaces.
And the gallery space. So yeah, where are we with that? So that seems to be a really good direction, I think, for your research papers in terms of identifying a kind of one of the key issues that contemporary art is dealing with. Of course, it seems to me that art often finds itself in taking a position in relation to this problem that was thrown up probably provocatively by Duchamp and a number of other people in fine art, but also picked up and explored philosophically by people like Deleuze, and also somehow reinforced in the scientific discourse by people like Barad and Niels Bohr earlier, yes, through the quantum physics. And it's all somehow circles around our addiction to clarity. Clarity. And isn't it interesting how clarity is also the main fetish of photography? What you're after in a photograph. You want your tripod to be as steady as possible. You want the best lens. You want the sharpest film, or whatever it is, the equivalent. Because you want a clear, sharp image, which is clearly defined, yeah, and it is this continuous drive towards more and more pixels, more and more clarity, faster shutter speeds. What for? To freeze action, so you can see, you can capture a bird in flight, but with so much clarity, with, let's say, your daylight flash, so you will see, every detail. What is that about? Why this obsession with clarity? Why no one promotes a new camera, by saying that it has less pixels, that it is blurry, that you don't see very well what comes out? Why no one thinks that it would be great to have a camera that just makes really hazy, cloudy, unclear pictures?
It's an obsession with craft, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's like an obsession with craft.
It's an obsession with craft, yes, so just to make it better.
Yeah.
That's right. But why the better is understood as more clarity? The better could only be understood as some beautiful haziness.
But like to what you were saying in terms of like cinema as well, because I think there's been a big trend towards people wanting to understand clarity through plot.
Yeah.
And that's like a similar thing in terms of
People will understand clarity as?
like a structured plot that explains everything.
That's right, but this is, I think you're absolutely right. Clarity is a plot. Yeah, but it's a plot with roots in this Platonic distinction between images and ideas, between pictures and the real. Yeah, and Plato says a good picture, a honest picture, will do two things. First, it will declare itself to be a picture. It will carry a tag that says, I'm a picture here to help. And it will also be faithful, clear, as similar to the original as possible, while at the same time reminding you all the time that it's a picture you are looking at. That's the importance of the frame. Here is a little example. So you know how in Plato's The Republic, and if you haven't read it, I think you should read it over the summer. It's a really, really amazing book of philosophy, but it also reads, it just reads as a story. The Republic. So Plato, in chapter 7, in book 7 of the Republic, of course there is the fable of the cave, you know, the famous Plato's cave. Now, elsewhere in the book, Plato warns us against images, how dangerous, how misleading they are, and he bans artists from his ideal city because they create these misleading pictures, these simulacra. So then one might ask, well, Plato, with all due respect, if you are so against images, what about your Plato's cave story? Isn't that also a kind of image? It's a fable. But that is a good image. Why? Because at all times you know that you're reading a fable. At no point it pretends to be anything else. It declares itself to be a story within a story. That's how it's framed. Yeah? So an image that carries within it clear indicators that it's an image, like the Rodin, like any painting is that is framed, is performing its role, not misleading us, yeah, not pretending to be fake reality or reality. So it's the duty of the image to maintain its, to carry its identity papers with it at all times. So it will be always clear that it is an image and not real. And the dangerous image, the subverted one, the pervert, the deviant image, is one that attempts to fool you, to mislead you, to confuse you, so you will not know anymore what is real and what is fake, what is real and what is an image. Yeah? But we seem to live in a world in which this distinction between real and fake is really very problematic. Yeah? Because, and that's partly to do with the world of advanced technology we inhabit, and partly to do with quantum physics, as I mentioned earlier. All this clarity between what is organic and what is industrial is not so clear. You know, everything is astroturf. Everything is both man-made and natural, both artificial and manufactured. And so with our artificial life forms, but all of us are also artificial life forms on some level, because of the way we are ingrained with technology. Yeah, from our immune system is technologically manufactured and maintained, and everything else. So all these distinctions are completely ambiguous. So it seems that the Platonic model that is based on separation doesn't work, and we need a model that allows us to come to terms with undecidability, with ambiguity. Okay, so let's move on. Let's see what is. So, right, let's look at this. Let's look at this. Could someone read to us the beginning of this section? some of the link. Just a few lines.
That the same and the like, is it the one?
Ah.
Yeah.
And the same and the like might be simulated does not mean that they would be appearances or illusions. Simulation disintegrates the power to produce an effect.
Okay, what does it mean? Let's stop here because it's already quite a lot. These two sentences, how do you understand them? Linda, what do you think?
Hang on.
When he's talking about the same and the like, what he's talking about?
Real and
Yeah.
Exactly. He's talking about representation.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what is that the same and the like might be simulated does not mean that they would be appearances or illusions.
He's saying that simulacra is not an appearance.
Correct.
And neither is
Simulacra is not an illusion. It's not an appearance. He wants to restore some sense of reality to simulacra. And then what is the next sentence? Simulation designates the power to produce
Hang on 1 second.
Yes.
Why can it not be an illusion if it's within your mind?
Because the second sentence answers that. And he didn't say anything about the mind. It's not in your mind. What is in your mind is precisely the representational model. We'll come to that in a second. Let's just look at this first. Simulation designates the power to produce an effect. What is an effect? An effect, it's like, yeah, well, it is like a reaction is a good word. Let's say I'm allergic to peanuts. Yeah? And I eat, let's say, almond croissant. And that will produce an effect in me. My face will go red. Yeah? That will be the effect in me. What caused the effect? Well, my allergy to almonds, my allergy to peanuts. Yeah? So this allergy is like simulacra. Yeah? It's not an illness exactly. It's not exactly not illness. It's something different. Yeah? But it's real. And then, is it universal? No, it's not universal. It's just me. In me, the almonds produce this effect. Yeah? In you, encountering a certain artwork can produce an effect. What does it mean, an effect? It means that it's not something analytical. It's not something logical or rational. Meeting someone might make me happy. Meeting someone, as Deleuze is saying, I meet Paul and it makes me feel good. I meet Peter and it makes me feel sad. Paul and Peter both produce effects on me, yeah, but they're different, and there's nothing universal about it. It's not like it can be logically decomposed or analyzed. Yeah, that's kind of how it is. Yes.
Is it an effect in regards to the viewer, the person who's looking at the
Yes.
simulacra?
Yes. Yes.
So the effect is like change prior between the states of before seeing the artwork and after.
Read to us, Julia, if you don't mind, the next sentence.
But this is not only in the causal sense, because causality, without the intervention of other meanings, would remain completely hypothetical and indeterminate. It is in the sense of sign, resulting from the process of signals. And it is in the sense of costume, or even better, of masks, expressing a process of disguise where behind each mask there is still another.
Okay, and maybe one more sentence.
Simulation constructed in this way is not separable from the eternal return, because it is in the eternal return that the overthrow of the icons or the subversion of the world of representation is decided.
Great, and I think you highlighted a very good paragraph. That's really interesting. What do you hear in this? I think maybe we need to read it again, because that is really quite interesting. Could someone read to us this whole thing again, from the beginning until the decided? Isaac, could you read to us?
Which page is it?
50.